Some men dig for wealth. Others dig to prove something to the silence, watching them back. The land is quiet at first, not peaceable, just indifferent. A wide, merciless stillness that doesn't care who survives inside it. In Tiskiat, a man works alone. No voice. No help, only breath, stone, and stubborn will. His body is already battered, but the work continues anyway, as if stopping would mean disappearing. This is not ambition yet. It is survival hardened into habit. The man's name is Daniel Plainview, though the land does not know names. It only knows pressure. Wait. Time. And Daniel moves through it like someone who has learned that pain is temporary, but weakness is permanent. When he falls, he does not cry out. When his leg breaks, the sound is swallowed by the earth. There is no witness, no comfort, just a slow, furious crawl toward daylight, driven not by hope but refusal. Refusal to be undone. Refusal to be small. Refusal to die quietly. From the beginning, Daniel learned something crucial. No one is coming to help. Years pass, and the silence changes shape. Now Daniel speaks, but only when necessary. Words are tools, like picks, like contracts, like smiles that never reach the eyes. He moves from place to place with a boy at his side, HW, presented to the world not as a child, but as proof. Proof of stability. Proof of legacy. Proof that Daniel belongs among men who shake hands instead of striking stone. Together, they sell certainty. Daniel stands before landowners and speaks softly about opportunity, about partnership, about shared futures. His voice is steady, measured, trustworthy. But beneath it runs something called Iran. Arithmetic of dominance. He listens not to people, but to leverage. To weakness, to the moment when resistance softens into agreement. HW watches him closely, not like a son watches a father, but like a student watching a method. The boy learns when to nod, when to smile, when to remain still. Daniel does not teach affection. He teaches alignment. Stand where I stand. Move when I move. Speak when I decide. It works. Oil rises from the ground like a confession dragged out under pressure. Black, violent, uncontrollable. It stains everything it touches, and with it comes noise engines, shouting, money, changing hands. The silence Daniel once fought against now bends around him, reshaped by industry and force. But noise does not mean connection. As Daniel's world expands, something in him contracts. He becomes sharper, more exacting, less patient with anything that cannot be controlled. He does not drink to celebrate, he drinks to disappear. And when he looks at others, there is always a brief pause long enough to measure whether they are useful, dangerous, or beneath notice. Then comes a voice unlike the others. Eli Sunday speaks with conviction that doesn't waver. His words are filled with God, with purpose, with certainty. That comes not from calculation, but belief. Where Daniel persuades, Eli declares. Where Daniel bends truth, Eli claims ownership of it. They stand on the same land, but they speak different languages. Eli wants recognition. He wants his power acknowledged publicly, loudly, ritualistically. He believes influence must be visible to exist. Daniel believes the opposite. Power, to him, is most effective when no one realizes it has already been taken. Their interactions are polite at first, formal, but underneath, there is friction to men who do not understand each other, yet immediately recognize a threat. Not because they are similar, but because neither can submit. HW begins to drift at the edges of this tension. An accident leaves him changed, cut off from sound, from the world Daniel navigates so effortlessly with words. The boy who once mirrored his movements now hesitates, watches, withdraws. Daniel does not know how to reach him. He tries instruction, then discipline, then frustration. When those fail, something colder replaces them. Distance masquerading as practicality. Love reduced to logistics. The land keeps producing, but the cost is no longer just physical. Daniel's successes stack higher, but each one isolates him further. He trusts no one. Partners are temporary. Loyalty is assumed only until it isn't. Every relationship becomes a transaction. Every interaction, a contest that must be won. Even solitude begins to feel crowded with rivals real and imagined. At night, the noise fades. The machines quiet, and Daniel is left alone with the echo of himself. A man who once fought silence now cannot escape it. He drinks more, sleeps less, listens for betrayals that may not exist, yet feels certain they will. Eli, meanwhile, grows louder, more theatrical. His faith becomes performance, his sermons edged with accusation. He sees Daniel not just as a sinner but as a conquest, a soul that must be humbled publicly to validate Eli's authority. Daniel senses this instinctively. What he despises most is not Eli's belief but his need. The need to be seen, to be affirmed, to kneel before something greater. Daniel kneels for nothing. When their conflict surfaces openly, it is not explosive, it is surgical. Insults disguised as courtesy, humiliations framed as necessity. Each man waiting for the other to blink first. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Daniel begins to change. The careful negotiator hardens into something more brittle. His patience thins. His gaze lingers too long. He stops, pretending that success is shared. Starts speaking openly about competition not as business, but as destiny. There is a confession. He never speaks aloud, but it shapes every choice. He does not want to be admired. He wants to win, not wealth, not comfort, not family. Victory. Over rivals, over land, over anyone who reminds him that connection requires vulnerability. He measures his worth not by what he builds, but by who he outlasts. HW, now further away than ever, represents something Daniel cannot control. The boy's independence feels like betrayal. His limitations feel like inconvenience. Daniel responds not with cruelty but with abandonment disguised as opportunity. It is the moment when something essential fractures. Not dramatically, keenly. And in that quiet fracture, Daniel becomes more alone than he has ever been, surrounded by men, machines, money, and power, yet utterly unaccompanied. The land continues to give, but it is no longer enough. Because what Daniel is extracting now is not oil, it is proof. Proof that isolation is strength. That domination is clarity. That if he can stand alone at the top, untouched, undefeated, then the silence he once feared will finally respect him. Instead, it watches, unmoved. And as pressure builds beneath the surface between faith and force, fatherhood and ownership, noise and emptiness, something begins to feel inevitable. Not an explosion. A reckoning. A moment where belief, resentment, and ambition can no longer coexist quietly. And when it comes, it will not ask who deserves it. It will only ask who remains standing. The silence returns, but it no longer feels empty. It feels crowded with memory. Years have passed, and Daniel Plainview now lives inside the world he once imagined conquering. The rooms are vast. The ceilings high. The air heavy with wealth that no longer circulates, it stagnates. What was once momentum is hardened into possession. He owns. He controls. He has won, and yet nothing in him rests. His body moves slower now, burdened not by labor, but by excess. Drink fills the spaces where conversation used to be. The sharp calculations that once guided him have dulled into obsession, replaying old rivalries long after they've ceased to matter. Power has not softened him. It has sealed him off. The people who remain around Daniel do so out of obligation or fear, never closeness. Their footsteps echo as if they are trespassing inside a mausoleum built for a living man. And Daniel knows this. He feels that distance the way a man feels a storm coming, inevitable, but uninteresting. What still stirs him are not pleasures, but ghosts. HW is one of them. The boy, a man returns as a subordinate, but as an equal. He speaks calmly, respectfully, with a self-possession Daniel never taught him, yet somehow resents. HW talks of independence, of building something of his own, of stepping out from under a name that has become too heavy to carry. Daniel listens, but he does not hear son. He hears defiance. In HW's quiet certainty, Daniel senses something slipping beyond his reach. Not control over business, but over narrative. Over legacy. The story he told the world about himself, with HW standing beside him as proof of continuity. And when that story fractures, Daniel reacts the only way he knows how. He attacks, not physically, not immediately, but with words sharpened by years of resentment. He reframes care as burden, love as transaction. He strips away the illusion of family until only utility remains. And when that, too, fails, he reaches for the deepest weapon he has, truth delivered with cruelty. HW leaves not in anger, but in clarity. And that, more than anything, devastates Daniel, because anger can be fought. Clarity cannot. Another ghost soon follows. Elisande re-enters Daniel's life, not as a threat but as a contradiction. The man who once demanded reverence now arrives diminished. His voice lacks conviction. His certainty has eroded. Faith, once his armor, has failed him. In the public arena he believed would sustain him, he comes asking for help. Daniel recognizes the imbalance immediately. The roles have reversed. The long-awaited moment where belief kneels before wealth, where the man of God must submit to the man who never believed in anything but himself. This is not business. This is revenge disguised as ritual. Daniel does not simply deny Eli dignity, he stages its destruction. He forces public renunciation, strips Eli of the identity that once challenged him. Each word Eli speaks under pressure feels like a theft, returned with interest. And yet, even in victory, Daniel feels no relief. Because domination does not satisfy, it only escalates. What follows is not triumph, but decay. Daniel retreats further inward, sealing himself inside rooms that resemble arenas more than homes. He drinks not to forget, but to relive. He narrates his own conquests aloud, as if the walls need convincing, as if repetition might finally turn memory into peace. It never does. When Eli appears one final time, it is almost absurd. Two men who once fought over land now confront each other in isolation, stripped of context, stripped of audience. There is no town to impress, no congregation to sway, no investors to persuade. Only the truth of who they are when no one is watching. Daniel is no longer negotiating. He is finishing something. What unfolds is not sudden, it is the logical conclusion of years spent reducing people to obstacles. Eli's pleas are not met with rage, but with contempt. A quiet, almost bored cruelty, the cruelty of a man who believes the outcome was decided long ago. In that moment, Daniel does not act out of anger. He acts out of certainty. The certainty that competition must end with someone removed. The certainty that coexistence is a lie told by those unwilling to dominate. The certainty that if he allows even one rival to exist, the silence will judge him weak. When it is sober, there is no catharsis, no victory speech. Just a man standing alone inside the empire he built, surrounded by proof that winning does not equal fulfillment. That power, pursued without connection, circles back on itself and becomes isolation. Daniel has consumed everything he set out to conquer. The land, the rivals, the future he imagined controlling. What remains is the silence he tried to outrun. Only now, it does not watch him. It hounds him. And in the end, the greatest cost of his triumph is not what he destroyed but what he never allowed himself to need. Because some men dig for wealth, and some dig so deep that they cannot climb back out.